topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Churchill said, "Those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it." Kevin Hallinan believes that certainly applies to business. Welcome to Winning Business Radio, here at W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. And now, your host, Kevin Hallinan.
Thanks, everybody, for joining in today. I am Kevin Hallinan, and welcome back to another episode of Winning Business TV and Radio on W4CY.com, streaming live on Talk4TV.com, in addition to Facebook at Winning Business Radio, as well as available in podcast form in many, on many other platforms, including YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, tons of other places, wherever you consume your podcasts. The mission of Winning Business Radio and TV, as regular listeners and viewers know, is to offer insights and advice to help people avoid the mistakes of others, right? To learn best practices, like, the how-tos, the what-tos, the what-not-tos, to be challenged and certainly and hopefully to be inspired by the successes of others. But, every person I've ever talked to has had some form of failure in their lives and careers. So while we all have to get our knees skinned once in a while, you hear me every week say, I'm driven to keep those scrapes from needing major surgery. Let's endeavor to learn from history so we don't repeat it. Today, my guest is Mike Ward, a financial advisor with the Commonwealth Financial Group. Mike Ward is a financial advisor with Commonwealth Financial Group, which is an agency of Mass Mutual. He's been with Commonwealth since 2007, has been a financial advisor since 2003. Mike graduated cum laude from Northeastern University in 1999 with a degree in psychology, is recruited out of school to work for a national food broker company and to be part of their fast track management program. In 2003, he decided to change career paths and build his own financial advisory practice. In addition to being a financial advisor, Mike also helped with developing a training program with Commonwealth Financial Group from 2012 to 2017, which he still uses with his personal practice today. Mike has a unique planning practice. He prides himself on developing a comprehensive financial analysis for each of his clients so he can better understand their unique goals and objectives. His clients are in the personal market space, small business owners and pre-retirees. Mike lives in Walpole, Mass. with his wife, Maureen, and his two teenage children, Grace and Brandon. In his free time, he enjoys coaching youth sports, golfing, and traveling. Mike, welcome to Winning Business Radio.
A pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite, and I look forward to the talk.
Well, it's going to be the highlight of your minute. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's start with your family. Tell us about your wife, Maureen.
Absolutely, yeah. So Maureen, we've been married since 2003. We met when I was in school. I worked at Brigham Women's Hospital on the labor floor, and that's where we met.
Were you the guy holding the catcher's mitt?
I tell you, it's one heck of an experience being a 21, 22-year-old guy on a labor floor. Like, you'd be talking to people on the phone, they're screaming in the background. Like, where are you working again?
Wow.
I work on the labor floor.
Wow.
So Maureen, she was a labor and delivery nurse for years.
Wow.
And then in 2000, and I start to get the years all mixed up, maybe around 2005 or so, she moved over to Mass General Brigham. They have a day surgery place over at Patriot Place, which is 6 miles from our house.
Yeah.
So she's been working over there. She does charge, and then she's also a charge nurse, but then she's also just an OR nurse.
So for those that are out of the region, Mike, Patriot Place is all kinds of businesses and restaurants and not businesses, restaurants, fun and game stuff around
Gillette. Around Gillette Stadium. Yeah. So it's like, Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, he started. Yeah. He bought the team, and then he built the stadium in 2001. And then what he what he did almost right away was just build up a big mall around it. So, and it's like what you said. There's everything from a Red Robin restaurant
Yep.
to
Yep.
all different stores and then businesses as well. So, insofar that Mass General, they have a huge 2 buildings there where they have
Hmm.
internal medicine, surgery, and so on.
Yeah, I've actually been to an appointment over there. And then there's a TB12 there, of course.
There
And
is.
there is clothing stores, memorabilia, all kinds of related stuff. Is it
Right.
okay to still talk about TB12?
We can talk about TB isn't here anymore, but
I
TB12
know.
is still there. It's
That's
still over
right.
there on the
That's right.
property.
So here's the joke of the day. Did Maureen have love at first sight?
I think
You don't have to answer that.
I think it was more me having love at first sight, because
Yeah.
I do remember, like, I remember taking like a walk with her, and I was like, oh, we should go out sometime. She's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
should go
My
out for a
number's
drink.
555.
You should. But we certainly hit it off really quick, and well, the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Talk about Grace and Brandon. How old are they and what are they into?
Yeah, so Brandon, so he's my youngest, and he's 16. He's going to be a sophomore in high school.
Nice.
He's been athletic his whole life. Like, another great thing about Maureen is that with all the kids, we always had them do different things. Like, it wasn't like, oh, you know what, you're going to be on the soccer track, and we're just going to have you do soccer all the time.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
they did dance, they did ballet, they did gymnastics, they did sports. So Brandon, he always liked the sports. So right now he's into soccer. He's really into soccer. And they have their tryouts next week for the high school team. Grace, she's 18. She just graduated from Walpole High School. She's off to she's off to Hofstra. September 1st or 2nd. I gotta look at the calendar. Is her move-in day. It's a really exciting time for our family. Exciting time for her. Grace is awesome. She's a good student. She got merit money, which was very helpful for going to school. And she's interested in, and she's always been interested in theater, dance, drama, singing. So when she goes to school, she's actually going to major in public relations, which is great, like a real major, something that you can get a job with, really, at any corporation. But then she's also going to double major and have drama as the double major. And then our oldest child, Taylor, she's 29. She's great. She's a nurse. She has a son. She lives over in Franklin, Mass, which is only about 20 minutes from us.
Mm-hmm.
So at home, it used to be, oh, there's Taylor, Brandon, and Grace at the house, and then I changed the bios, and now it's Grace and Brandon are my teenager. And now I have to change the bio again, where it'll just be, oh, so I just live here with Brandon because Grace is off at school, Taylor's off at her home. So so that's the kids.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I like viewers and listeners to hear about the background of guests that I have on. So talk about where you grew up.
So I grew up in Marshfield, Massachusetts. So that's on the south shore of Massachusetts. It's a beach town. It's such a beach town that as a kid growing up, like, you took for granted that there was a beach right there. It's like now as an adult, like, I don't live near a beach. So if you want to take the kids to a beach, it's a big project. You got to load up the car, drive 45 minutes, try to find a place to park. We're growing up. It was like, oh, okay, what are we going to do? Oh, it's Friday afternoon. I guess we'll go sit on the beach wall. But so Marshfield, it's a relatively small town, especially when I was growing up there in the 80s. They call it the Irish Riviera because a lot of the Irish folks who were living in Dorchester and living in the city, when they decided to go out to the suburbs, a lot of them went down to Marshfield. So it was, I think the town probably had about...
Just so others, again, out of the area know, you don't have to take a bridge to the Cape. That's the big plus.
Depending which part of the Cape you're going to go to. So the Marshfield, right? It's probably like a half hour from the bridges to the Cape, but then you have, but it's also about 40 minutes from Boston. So it's it's in the center. So I understand why a lot of people who are moving out of the city really wanted to be down there. And it's a small town, like 15 or 20,000 people maybe when I was living there. Small, quiet, cute. It was a great place to grow up. A lot of good people down there.
Yeah. So what were you into? What were your early interests?
So I think probably I was swimming and sports. I was always into growing up. In high school, played football and basketball. I was in the band, jazz band and marching band.
Mm-hmm.
And then so later on in high school, when I wasn't quite as tall, not quite as big enough to keep up with the football players, I was really into music there at the in school. So that was kind of my interests growing up.
What did you play? What instrument?
What instrument? I was a drummer. Yeah.
Drummer. Okay.
So depending on who you ask, sometimes people are like, "Oh, it's not a real musician." Like I don't know how to read music. Like I don't know the difference between a C and a D and an E.
Yep. But you can read a percussion chart.
I sure can. I can bang the hell out of a table. I tell you.
Yeah. No, I was in the Medfield High School marching band and the UMass marching band too. That was a ton of fun. That was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, UMass marching band. Yeah, UMass marching band. The a couple of my friends from school, where that's no joke. Like that's a real commitment there in school, in college, being able to do that. So good for you. And what I liked about that in high school, just kind of thinking back at it now, it's like it was a good group of people that you were able to be friends with. And so as I'm looking at it now, like some of my best friends are friends that I met in band, right? Like in that. Kind of that group, and I think that's it's a good group of people to be associated with.
One more question before the first break. I think this will take us to the first break. It's kind of a fun question for me. What were your high school and college jobs, if you had any?
So I was a paper boy. When I was 12, 11, whenever you could first do it. So I was a paper boy. I was then a dishwasher at a local restaurant, moved up to cook at the local restaurant. And then when I was in school, I still kept the job as a cook because I commuted to school. And I worked on the labor floor as like an orderly, as a unit secretary at the hospital. So I think working in the restaurant business, it's something I'm trying to get some applications in for Brandon to work in the restaurant business. I think that's a great experience for anybody. It teaches you how to deal with different types of people, conflict resolution, being in charge of your own schedule, all these different personalities that you meet with the people that you're working with and with the customers, hard work, how to clean up, and then like the basics on how to cook and how to prepare things for yourself. I think it's a great experience for everybody.
That industry is still dying for people. I just read an article online saying that a lot of those folks that were in hourly, they're just kind of waiting for a better opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you see the signs everywhere. Help wanted.
Every restaurant.
Every restaurant, and it's I guess it's great that a lot of these restaurants were able to make it through COVID. And great that they're able to keep their doors open. It's just kind of a struggle to find those employees to come in. So it's good for the young kids like Brandon, who's 16. Like, oh, you want to be a busboy? Like, oh yeah, you want to work Saturday night? Come on down. So there is certainly a need for the restaurant.
No, that is great experience. Working with people of any in any way is just fantastic experience. You can't beat that. All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, I want you to tell people about Northeastern, the co-op program. 5 years most of the time, right? Assuming you did that.
I did,
And we will be back in just a couple of minutes with Mike Ward of Commonwealth Financial Group.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Hey everyone, I'm Jimmy Star, the king of cool and your host of the Jimmy Star Show, the entertainment radio show for all you cool and unique people looking to get a behind-the-scenes peek at what's going on in the entertainment industry. Listen in as me and my cool crowd of co-hosts bring you celebrity guests, new music, and the good times in fashion, entertainment, and pop culture. Right, everybody? Right! Tune in live Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on W4CY.com.
Hey, this is Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and you're listening to W4CY Radio.
or join me for In Your Face on W4CY.com, Tuesdays at
2
p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Bestgen Wealth Management is a second-generation, family-owned financial planning and wealth advisory firm. In addition to coordinating complex business and personal planning needs, our firm takes a sincere interest in your well-being and personal values. Find us at bestgenwm.com. That's bestgenwm.com, where we consider all our clients an extension of our family. Advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back with financial advisor Mike Ward with Commonwealth Financial Group, which is an agency of Mass Mutual. I should have asked, do we have to say that part every time? Compliance. So tell the viewers and listeners who are not in New England about Northeastern University and its unique co-op program.
Yeah, so Northeastern University, it was when my mom went there, my uncle went there. It was a commuter school. So back in the I suppose 70s, 80s, it was a commuter school. What they started to do in the 90s was that they totally changed around the campus, and so I was going there in the late 90s, so 94 to 99 was when I was at Northeastern, and it became more of a school where people would just go and live, and where it wasn't a commuter school. But what was unique about Northeastern, and probably the reason why I chose it, was that they had a co-op program. So in essence, you're going to school for 5 years instead of 4. And what happens starting your sophomore year is that then what happens is that you, it's like you have two trimesters you're in school, and then one trimester you're working. So it's like an all year type of deal. And they have access to all sorts of different companies that would hire folks in the co-op program. So it was that I think was the driving force behind it. And it's one of these things, like looking back at it, I don't understand why more schools don't have some sort of co-op program. Like it seems to be a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win. It's a win for the students. It's a win for the school. They get the student for another year of tuition. And it's a win for the businesses around the school that can hire. So there was, I'm forgetting the name of the companies. There were a couple of co-op jobs early on that kind of focused on mental health, and like there was a group home that I worked at.
By the way, psychology degree, I didn't mention. I guess that was in your bio. Yeah, excuse me.
Yep. So that was my major, was psychology. I think when I went to school, my thought was that, you know what, I want to be a child clinical psychologist. And then as I continued to grow, and I kind of realized as a senior in school that, you know what, like in order to do that, like you really got to go to school for at least another 4 to 6 years. I was at this point in my life where I really kind of wanted to get out in the workforce and start, earning money and kind of being my own man. So I decided to move in a different direction. But that initially was my thought around why I was going to have a psychology degree, what I would do with it, why I wanted to go to Northeastern. But by the end, after talking to some advisors at school, they said, like what do you want to do? Like, well, I want to work with people, and I want to make money. And so my professor, Jane Bybee, I won't forget her name, she said, well, then you should go into finance or you should go into sales. And so the other thing that happens at Northeastern, which actually probably happens at a lot of other schools too, is that they have the senior year. There's all these job fairs that where basically you, at the time, like, you sign your name on a sheet of paper for any, and you get an interview, and you could do as many as you wanted. And so I had a few interviews, and the person who interviewed me, Vince Morgan, who actually, Kevin, I've never told you this, but you remind me a lot of him, a little bit of your mannerisms, like the same facial features. And so Vince was a great guy, because I remember doing an interview with him, and he talked about this, that he worked for a food broker company. I didn't know what a food broker company was. But we have this fast track management program. And he said, and I'll never forget, he's like, I know that you're talking to a lot of other people, but before you accept a job from anyone else, call me first. And I left that interview, and I was kind of like, high. Like
Yeah.
like butterflies. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, because they're like, you're a 22-year-old kid, and someone just like says, oh, like I want you to work for me. It was a
Yeah.
very empowering feeling. So I'll never forget the advice from Jane, and I'll never forget Vince saying that to me. So basically, because of that, I decided to work for under him at the time that the name of the company was Marketing Specialists.
Mm-hmm. And food broker. So I actually had a client for a short while who was a food broker, and the way I describe it is they literally sold truckloads of Frosted Flakes.
That's a perfect example. The other
Yeah.
way to look at it is whenever you go into a supermarket, you see an end cap, right? So you
Yep.
see the spaghetti sauce or the cereal on the end cap.
Yeah.
There was some food broker who represented Frosted Flakes or Kellogg's.
Yep.
There's some
Yep.
food broker who goes to Stop and Shop or whoever and says, I want an end cap, and we're going to do A, B, and C in order to have that product there. So that's exactly right. They sell truckloads of food to the grocery chains, and it was one of those things where you never heard of it, never knew what it was, and then you get involved with it, and you say, oh my goodness, like there's all these
Yeah.
other things that go into giving food to the public that you never even realized.
So tell us about the Fast Track Management Program.
So the idea was that you would go through each stage on an accelerated path, so that you would be a manager, within 2 years. And so again, I was like, oh, this will be great. Like I can do this retail, which is not
Right.
glamorous. Like retail is going store to store to make sure that all the product is in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but after you do that, well, then you're gonna then you go in house, and then you start to do the designs of how those shelves should look. So okay, you get some computer experience, and then after that, then you go and you start working with somebody to sell the product to the distributors. And what wound up happening with Vince was that he took over the convenience store division. And he said, "Oh, why don't you, like, I know you've only been doing the retail piece for 6 months, but why don't you come over? You can be an account manager in the convenience store space." I was like, "Okay, that's great." So
Yeah.
I wound up doing
Step up
that.
already.
Yeah, and that leads to other, like, it's funny when you look back at life, like decisions that you made, how it leads to other things. So
Yeah.
I'll fast forward real quick. So working in the convenience store space, what happened when I decided that I didn't really want to be a food broker anymore. I want to be a financial advisor. Like one of the first things that you do as an advisor is that you want to try to go out and build your client base. And so everyone was like, oh, you want to talk to people who are making money, right? So
Right.
you want to talk to attorneys and you want to talk to doctors. And I said to myself, I'm like, these convenience store owners, like some of them own 5-10 stores, like they're making more money than the lawyers and the doctors. I think I'm going to go and talk to them. So that actually allowed me to kind of survive in the business for the first couple of years, to build up a practice, because I was able to have, like, there's a convenience store in every corner. So I was able to really build my client base around that. And the only reason that I would ever have known to talk to convenience store owners was because Vince was because I worked with Vince in the convenience store department, was because Vince said, oh, you should come and work for me. So it is interesting how, when you look back at different decisions, how everything kind of, closes together in a way.
Absolutely. In fact, I always ask, what's your most memorable takeaway? That's a really good one right there.
I would say I can't come up with, well, yeah, I guess the other memorable takeaway from working in the food broker space was that, so after I was working with Vince, so it was about a year and a half after graduating school, the company that we were with went bankrupt. So this is actually a good learning. It's a good learning experience to be 24 years old and see, like, oh, Jesus, what happens when a company goes bankrupt? Like, oh, some of these guys have lost their jobs, and oh my God, I know him. He has a house and family, and and we wound up our division wound up going to a different food broker company, so it was okay. But then after about 6-9 months there, I decided that this really wasn't the space that I wanted to be in. I wanted to build my own practice. I wanted to have control over my own destiny. I wanted to be my own boss, and I wanted to do something that I was really interested in, which was the financial markets, financial planning, and all that stuff.
How did you become interested in those?
So when I was working for the food broker company, my territory, I guess if you're outside of New England, well, you can just picture it. My territory was all the way from Bangor, Maine, down to the Cape, then over up to Montpelier,
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, was it Montpelier, Vermont? No, I guess I went to Burlington.
Okay.
And then and then it would be all the way down to Connecticut. So I had this huge area, and a lot of
massive,
driving around. And so I'd listen to like these financial radio shows, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I'd always been interested in the market because graduating in 1999, that was kind of the stock market bubble where everyone thought that they were going to be a millionaire.
That's right.
So I'd watch TV shows, I'd buy the magazines, I'd do my own research. So I'd always been interested in the markets, but then realizing that, there's actually people out there who help people with their investments, and here's how they do it, and here's why they do it, and here's how it helps their clients. Kind of hearing about that on the radio gave me a different perspective on it. And so then I started talking to friends and family and some different people, and wound up being connected with an advisor who was in the industry. So that was, and so then I realized like that was a good fit. So that was when I made that transition.
So you went to work with that firm?
I did, yeah. So that was, the name of that was Executive Compensation Group was the name of that. That was a producer group. So a producer group is basically, there's like 5 or 6 guys who just don't really need anybody. They just need to be kind of left alone, and they produce business, right? So so that was okay for a time. What wound up happening was that the producer group got bought by an agency. And so an agency is more like, not only can we handle the people who don't need anything, not only can we handle the guy who's been in the business for 30 years and just needs you to be out of his way, but we can also help out a brand new agent who just came into the business, who doesn't know anything. And then everything in between. So working in an agency, in my opinion, is much more effective, really for almost everybody, than being in a producer group. So it was great. Like at the time, again, it was like a year and a half. Like it was almost like there were 18-month segments of my life.
Yeah,
kind of
up
going
to,
through.
up to now. You've been, it's almost 20 years, right? Or over 20 years.
So, right after that, I decided, I'll just stick with what I'm doing.
That's right. You and I are kind of unicorns because I've been at Winning Inc. for almost 20. 20. Yeah.
When you find something that you love, Kevin, you find something that you're good at, and something where you can help out people. That I think is what a lot of people struggle with as they go through life. Like, the career path, the older person who decides to change career paths. I think it's, like they're just not happy and satisfied with what they're doing. They think that they can do more. And which is kudos to them for having that self-realization to be able to do it, and the courage to be able to do it. I think that you and I were fortunate that we discovered it when we did, so that we're able to put in the 20 years and then just I have no plans on ever stopping. So
nor do I.
Yeah.
So the first firm, did that merge into Commonwealth, or how did you end up at Commonwealth?
So the first firm merged into a Mass Mutual group, which 6 months later went with Mass Mutual Commonwealth Financial Group. So there was just like some mergers and some different things going on.
Yep.
But in essence, it was kind of all the same people that were there wound up at Commonwealth Financial Group a year and a half later. So that was around 2007 or so is when we started there. And Commonwealth Financial Group is a wonderful firm. When I was there, when we started there in 2007, there were probably like 60 producers, so like 60 advisors. So what was great about that was that you really have this small, like I knew everyone's name, I knew all the producers' kids, we'd have these trips and get-togethers, and like everyone knew everyone. The firm over the past 4 years or so I think there's about 180 advisors. So they're really just kind of blown up, which is good in its own way. Like there's a lot more resources, a lot more help. Like if I need someone to help me with something going on in California, there's an advisor who's in California who's associated with our firm. So it's a wonderful firm. It's a great, Mass Mutual is a great company to work with and for, whether certainly in the advisor capacity.
All right, we're going to take our second break right here. I've got more questions when we come back. Join us again in a couple minutes with Mike Ward. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan on W4CY Radio. That's W4CY.com. Don't go away. More helpful information is coming right up, right here on Winning Business Radio.
Have
you ever dreamed of having your own radio show? Well, W4CY Radio makes dreams come true. You can be a radio personality on the #1 ranked internet radio station in West Palm Beach, Florida. We can be heard in 105 countries and all U.S. states. Promote your business, earn up to $10,000 per month and more. It's all up to you. Have fun and be heard. Call 561-506-4031. That's 561-506-4031. Start your radio show now.
Hey, this is Rebel Medler. Join me for In Your Face on W4CY.com, Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Bestgen Wealth Management is a second-generation, family-owned financial planning and wealth advisory firm. In addition to coordinating complex business and personal planning needs, our firm takes a sincere interest in your well-being and personal values. Find us at bestgenwm.com. That's bestgenwm.com, where we consider all our clients an extension of our family. Advisory service is offered through Commonwealth Financial Network, a registered investment advisor.
Hey, this is Johnny Three Tears from Hollywood Undead, and you're listening to W4CY Radio.
I do whatever it takes to make it break through. Anything I'm face to face with, it's true.
And now back to Winning Business Radio with Kevin Hallinan, presenting exciting topics and expert guests with one goal in mind, to help you succeed in business. Here once again is Kevin Hallinan.
We're back again with Mike Ward, financial advisor with Commonwealth Financial Group, an agency of Mass Mutual. So define that relationship for the audience.
Define the...
the relationship between Commonwealth and Mass Mutual.
Sure. So Commonwealth Financial Group is an agency of Mass Mutual. So Mass Mutual is the parent company. And there's probably, in North America, there's probably 60 or 70 different agencies of Mass Mutual. So it means that I'm, from a broker-dealer standpoint, from being able, from a compliance standpoint, being allowed to sell securities, I have to have a broker-dealer, which is Mass Mutual.
Cool. Let's see. So tell us about your practice, and a quick disclaimer to the audience. This is not for your sake, but I figured it wouldn't hurt. We're not here to give any kind of financial advice. I mean, any kind of investment advice. We're just talking business. That's all. Yep. But, describe your practice and who you focus on. You mentioned small business owners and pre-retirees.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I never, there are certain advisors out there who limit themselves. They'll say, oh, you know what, I don't really want any client who has less than $500,000 of assets, right? I've never done that. And the reason that I haven't done it was that some of my best clients today are somebody who started putting in $50 a month into a college savings account 20 years ago, right? Yeah. So I've never turned away somebody. And my practice, I would say that where we can have the most success is if there's a household income of $200,000 to $300,000, because generally at that point, like you're able to, you're able to afford the mortgage. You can go on some vacations. You're paying your bills. But it's how can I make sure that I'm setting my future self up for financial success, right? So that household income. So that could be a small business owner. It could be an independent contractor. It could be somebody who works for State Street.
Could be a convenience store owner.
Could be a convenience store owner. That's exactly right. And then a pre-retiree. So that's generally defined as someone in their mid to late 50s. Okay, now they've built up a little bit of a nest egg, and it's how can I make sure that here I am, I'm entering the home stretch, right? I'm entering the final lap of my race. How can I make sure that I'm doing everything the right way so that when I'm 70 and 80 and 90, that I'm financially independent and I'm not worried about anything.
Certainly not worried about running out of money.
That would be ideal.
Yeah. So are there you answered some of this question. Tell me if there's another aspect here. What problems do you typically solve for clients?
So it all I would say it would all revolve around insurance planning and investment planning. So if you think of the analogy of a house, like all the fancy things that people save for, retirement, kids' college. They have an accumulation goal. They want to start their own business in a couple of years. Having an emergency fund. They want to buy a property. They want to buy a vacation home. They want to, they want to kind of, save up money for some event. That all kind of goes in the top part of the house. And then what happens down in the foundation, that's really just where people look at insurance. So that's kind of the less sexy stuff. But you want to make sure, I want to make sure that my clients, that their financial house is built solid and secure. Like I want to make sure that they have the right insurances in place so that if there's a premature death or a disability or a long-term care event, that is protected, that the top part of the house is protected so that they can still pass on their money to their kids as they wanted to, be able to fund the kids' college education the way they wanted to, be able to make sure that their spouse is financially independent and financially successful moving forward, no matter what bad event might have happened. So that's really, that's kind of the focus, Kevin. I kind of take this this shot from above, like, okay, how does everything fit into your financial house? And then if there's a short, okay, well, we've got to address this room or we've got to address this room, coming up with action plans to make sure that whether it's instantaneous or over a period of time, that we're able to build that financial house solid and secure.
So things maybe like long-term care insurance could be a need down the road, especially not before you get sick, right? God forbid.
Well, yeah, I think that
liability. I mean, not liability. Long-term disability.
Yeah. So I mean, I think ideally. Yeah, before you get sick, you said, but I think like the earlier that you do planning, any type of planning, the more choices, the more options that you're going to have in the future. So if you're a 22-year-old and you just graduated school and you're going to work for a company, okay, you start saving money then for retirement. You're going to have so many more choices when you're 40, 50, 60 than you would if you wait. So I think always having a plan, always kind of looking, doing it sooner rather than later is always going to help. And so, yeah, you mentioned long-term care. That is, you have to go into a nursing home or an assisted living facility. That can be a huge financial drain.
Yeah, we've got my father-in-law, my wife's dad, who is in a place up in Chelsea, a memory unit.
Yeah,
it's not something he planned for.
Right. It's not. And if you can offset some of that financial liability by utilizing insurance. Then you're just leveraging your dollars. You're taking one of your dollars and spending it on the insurance, but you're protecting three of them. So that's a pre-retiree, someone in their 50s, 60s, like, okay, I've built up enough money. I have a good nest egg. I can utilize some of this money over here to fund a long-term care event or a policy. And then the disability, a long-term disability, that's something that happens earlier on. So 30s and 40s, you started a career, you have a profession, you have family, you have people depending on your paycheck every week or every other week. That's when you want to look at disability insurance. So it is unique in a way. So everyone that I talk to, like if you're 30 years old, we don't need to talk about long-term care insurance. And if you're 60, we don't need to talk about long-term disability insurance. So, but depending on where someone is, that's where we kind of hammer down the individual financial analysis, financial plan for people.
So when you say you work with small business owners, you're not looking necessarily to define the size of that business, more of the income that's coming from that business.
That's a fair statement. Yeah. It's not like, I just want to work with a general contractor, or I just want to work with restaurant owners. No, like I have restaurant owners and general contractors who are clients. It's more the income that they have allows them to put some good plans in place.
And how do you attract those clients? What's your most effective means of client development?
So at this point, it's really referral based business. And I would say that probably 50% of the referrals come from existing clients, and then 50% of referrals come from centers of influence, right? So whether it's networking groups or other advisors, attorneys, accountants, folks. That's how the business gets generated. Early on when you first started, you don't have the existing client base, and you haven't really built up the network of other advisors. So early on, it was, just a lot of hustle, like, calling and we didn't even really, I didn't even really have LinkedIn, I think, when we started. So it was, it's funny how far how much business has changed and how
for
people
sure.
can interact. But yeah, at this point in time, it really is a referral-based business for me.
What mistakes have you seen business owners and investors, maybe not even investors, but what mistakes have you seen people make? And how do you help them avoid those?
So, well,
Because I imagine, let me just add this, I imagine there can be some challenging conversations when you see sort of a gap.
well, there is. So there, I mean, the story, it always comes up. When I was helping with the training program at Commonwealth Financial Group, I did some group work. So I'd go
Yeah, I
out
want to get to that. So good.
So I'd go out with another advisor, someone who's brand new, and go and talk to whoever it was that they wanted to help, and just to see if it would be a good fit. And so there was this one time I thought it would be a great client. She was a consultant. She was making like $200,000 a year. She's been doing that for like 10 years. She's 60 years old. I go and meet with her, and she has $50,000 saved up, and it's like they're like there's nothing you can do at that point. Like there's no way that you're going to be able to save up enough money to give yourself the same economic lifestyle in retirement that you have pre-retirement. You don't have time. You just don't have any time to do it. So there are a lot of challenging conversations. So I would say that the mistake that people make sometimes, people, they think that they're okay and they're not. Like, oh, yeah, I'm doing okay. Like I save $100 every month, and I'm going to have enough. So I think is probably the biggest mistake that people make, is that they think that they're okay, but they haven't really done any research to make sure that they are. And then the best way to be able to help people is that if I meet somebody and they're if they're under the age of 45, no matter what they've done up to that point, I know that there's a long enough runway where we're going to be able to put a good plan in place, and you're going to be able to be financially independent. It might take some sacrifice, like, oh, maybe you can't take that next trip to the Caribbean that you were hoping to take this year. But we can come up with a plan so that I know that you're going to achieve financial success in the future. So it's really like, the secret to being financially independent, it's so simple. It's just like you have to save 15 to 20% of your income, and you have to do it for 20 or 25 years. You do that, you're going to build up this pot of money that produces enough income for you so that you have the same lifestyle, the same economic lifestyle in retirement. But the issue that people come up with is, oh, I'm saving 5%, and I've been doing that I'm good. So I think that generally speaking is the mistake, is that people, they don't give themselves enough time to achieve their goals.
So talk about the training program you developed. I was curious about that. That's over a 5-year period. Looks like you said 2012 to 2017. And you said you're actually using that still.
Yeah. So the general agent, the CEO of Commonwealth Financial Group, Rick St. Jean is his name. He in 2000 and I'm not sure, the years are all mixed up now. I think it was around 2012. He invited me in to kind of revamp the training program. So I was working with him and also a couple of other folks who were with the agency.
And by the way, is this training for everybody, or is this training for new folks that come on board?
So it was, generally speaking, it was training for everybody.
Okay, yeah.
But the focus was really on folks who are 2 years, 3 years and under in the business.
Okay. Yep.
And so what wound up happening was that as I was developing it, I was also learning from it too, right? So I was like, I had a certain set of skill sets that I had developed to be able to build my practice to where it was. But then this just kind of put it on steroids. So the training program that we developed, it was great because it allowed me kind of midstream, if you will, be able to kind of change directions and be able to focus a little bit more on really the financial planning side and getting people to take a look at their overall financial picture instead of just one or two, transactional narrow gap things. So it was, I feel like I got as much out of the training program as I was able to give to it. So it was a wonderful, again, one of those win-win situations. I was able to help out the agency was able to help out me. I was able to help out new advisors who come on board. They were able to help me out. So it was wonderful.
And my guess is, not a commercial for Commonwealth, but my guess is you're able to help clients more effectively.
Yes, right, and
Yeah.
that is true, right? So if you have a well trained staff, right, a well trained team for you, and that team has resources. So like this was a kind of a mistake that I made early on, that I've
You're reading the
learned to
playbook already. That was my next question. No, go for it.
that I've learned to kind of rectify as I've grown, is
Yeah.
that like there's like you don't know everything about everything, but
Yeah.
there's somebody at the firm who does. There's someone at the firm who's dealt with that type of situation before. So being able to call on that. So like if someone had never talked to a convenience store owner, like, oh, maybe you want to bring Mike in on that call, right? And if I've never talked if I never talked to a sports athlete, but I have this opportunity to I've never had that opportunity, but now I have it. Like, oh, I want to bring in some other resources from the firm to be able to help. So I think for for all the clients of Commonwealth Financial Group, if you add up all the years of expertise that's at that firm, you're in the best hands that you possibly could be in.
What can you give us maybe just general couple of client success stories?
Client success stories. So I would
Yeah.
say that what I think is reassuring is that when I've talked to clients, I'm just thinking one right now. Like, we were talking back in 2005. Right? It's like, okay, if we do A, B, and C, then here's where you're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. You're going to be okay. And then here you are in 2022, looking back and being like, oh, she's okay. Like she's at this situation where she's not going to be able to spend the money that she saved up because she's developed such great habits, and a little bit of, I'd like to take credit for a little bit of that. Like I think, because I maybe put this idea in your head to do A, B, and C, and you did it.
She had the
You developed
discipline.
those habits. Right. She had the discipline. She, sacrificed a little bit, but in the end, she's great. And so that I think is like the greatest success story, is that I can see I can see that it works. Like early on when I first started in the business, I was like, I don't know, like they're telling me that this works, and the computer math, shows that it works. The planning software says that it works, but who knows when the .com bubble bursts, or the housing crisis bubble bursts, or you get COVID, or the COVID happens to the market, or the
Triple-digit inflation.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what happens with these black swan events? Does it really hold up? And what's great to see is that it does. Like I know that my process works. I know that if my clients listen to me, that they're going to be in a much better place in the future than if they didn't have me or someone like me in their lives. So that's the empowering thing, I think, and the reassuring thing, and the thing that makes me realize, like, you know what, this is great. Like this is good. This is the right fit for me. I'm able to help out people in the right way.
So we are almost out of time. I have a couple questions. What's who in the listening or viewing audience should reach out to you, and why?
I think anyone in the viewing, listening audience who is going through a life event. So it could be, or they have a friend who's going through a family member, friend who's going through a life event. So that could be they graduated college. That could be you had a baby. That could be first job. That could be divorce. That could be retiree. It could be you just had a death in the family. Any of these big events where it probably makes sense to take a financial snapshot of what's going on. That is where I'm going to be able to help. I can take this financial snapshot of where you are and create it on one page. Like, here's where everything is. And then project it out into the future so that you can hit not only your short-term, but your long-term financial goals.
Excellent. And what is the best way for people to reach out?
I'd say you can certainly call my cell or text me, 617-283-8158. And you can also email me at mjward, W-A-R-D, at financialguide.com. I always respond within 24 hours to emails and to text messages. So that would certainly be the best way for someone to reach out.
Fantastic. And it's right there on the screen. MJ Ward at financialguide.com, 617-283-8158. Mike, this has been great. Really appreciate you coming.
Kevin, this is a wonderful experience for me. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome, and thanks everybody for listening. This is a show about business, often business challenges. If you've got concerns about the growth of your company, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or LinkedIn at Winning Business Radio. You can drop me a note, Kevin at winningbusinessradio.com. Our company, Winning Incorporated, we're part of Sandler Training. We develop sales teams into high achievers and sales leaders into true coaches and mentors. We're not a fit for everybody, but hey, maybe we should have a conversation. Thank you, Juan, engineer and producer, for another job well done. We'll be back at it next Monday, August 22nd at 4 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to join us then. Thanks for being here. Kevin Hallinan.
You've been listening to Winning Business Radio with your host, Kevin Hallinan. If you missed any part of this episode, the podcast is available on Talk4 Podcasting and iHeartRadio. For more information and questions, go to winningbusinessradio.com or check us out on social media. Tune in again next week and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time to listen live to Winning Business Radio on W4CY Radio, W4CY.com. Until then, let's succeed where others have failed and win in business with Kevin Hallinan and Winning Business Radio.